Hi everyone, my name is Brian. I'm going to show you how to install a Navifans Apple CarPlay Android Auto module in this 2017 Acura MDX. This model is a sport hybrid version with the advanced package. Hi everyone, my name is Brian. I'm going to be showing you guys how to remove this front dash piece from an Acura MDX. The third generation, years between 2014 to 2020. This particular MDX has the dual screen monitor, as you can see. So what I'm attempting to do is remove this dash so I can install this Navifans Apple CarPlay Android Auto module. So the idea is that my car, the 2017, that didn't come with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, will now have it after I install this guy right there. So just to kind of show you the steps to do this, first you need a couple of tools. So down here I have a plastic pry tool that I'll use to pop this out, and I actually have already done that. I have an 8mm socket with this ratchet and a Phillips screwdriver. So really, to start off, what you'll want to do is you want to use this plastic pry tool. You stick it underneath and starting with the bottom. You want to pull forward towards yourself, or sorry, backwards, I guess, and it'll pop the bottom piece off first. And then what you do is you use your pry tool to kind of go around the sides to pop the other ends. And then what you could do is, once you kind of pop the these second clips right here, I use my fingers to kind of grab in between these vents on both sides, and I just pull it forward or towards me, and that should pop right out. So you can see there is a wiring harness that's connected to the controls down here. What you'll want to do is you want to unclip that. So there's a little tab right there that you push in, unclip, and now it's off. You can see the tabs right there that plug in, no screws attached. That's basically how it looks. All right, put this to the side. Oh. And now you'll see the radio. So the radio has 4 Phillips screw heads on these corners right here. So what I'll eventually do is unscrew these so I can take out the radio. Another thing I want to mention, there are 2 8mm screws underneath to release this radio. So right now I got the screws off. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew, and I don't need to completely unscrew the entire bolt. I just need to make it loose, and then it should eventually slide off. Those are the 8mm screws that you gotta screw out. So one thing I had to do was I had to adjust the socket I was using. So at first I was using this, but I realized that it was too short to reach the bolts that were behind this black piece right here, or plastic piece. And so I attempted to add an extension, but that ended up being too long. So I ended up going with this, a deep socket with this adapter, and that ended up working. It was still kind of a pain to reach it, but I got it. Remember, you don't have to take it all the way off, just loosen it. So I got it off. So now I'm in the process of pulling this guy out right here. All right, I got her out. I had a few tugs because the wires were nice and tucked in there, whoever installed this originally. You can see those are the clips in the back. See if I can get a better angle on this. There we go. We got clips in the back. It is pulled out. So again, it was those 4 screws, Phillips screws. Take those out, and the 8mm bolts on the bottom. All right, so next step would be to look at the instructions and figure out how the wiring harness is going to connect with this module. All right, so here are the instructions. Let's open up to the wiring diagram. Okay, so that's the Navifans module there. And you can see all the cables that needs to be hooked up. And then here's the back of the radio. And you can see what clips need to go where. And eventually, I'll have a system that kind of looks like that. All right, let's start with plugging in this module. So I am taking the integrated wiring harness that they provided. So you can see I got this right here. So the diagram shows a blue clip. I got a gray one, but I know this is the one because you can see the 3 RCA cables kind of attached to these female plugs. And then it goes, the wiring diagram kind of goes all the way like how it looks here, right? So I'm going to plug in this guy first. So this will go, let's see, something like that. There we go, nice and plugged. Okay, and then now we're going to figure out where these other plugs go. All right, next up I got this cable right here that connects to the top display right up there. So you see this cable. So this I had to unplug while I was pulling out the radio. And so I found the cable, which looks slightly different than what you see in the diagram. The diagram shows that there was a Acura video decoder that was supposed to be in with the kit. This one did not have it. Instead, I just have this Y cable where, let's see, these 2 ends. So this will plug in that from the radio, or from the top, the navigation, or that top display. And this will go into the radio. And then on the other end of that cable, so this guy will go in this module right here, right there. All right, so next would be plugging in that microphone jack. So I got a right angled one that plugs in right here, like so. All right, I got these 2 plugs in now. And according to that, I got one more to plug in. Looks like it is the Wi-Fi antenna. So after I get that done, I'll start plugging in to the rest of the car. All right, so next step would be connecting this CD cable. So unplugging it from the radio, which I've already done. So essentially this connector, you have a clip behind it where you push up and then you push it to the right like this, and it just comes off very easily, just like that. And then you know where the other connector is by looking at that same one here. So you can see there's a clip that you push down. So I'm just using my nail, and then let's see if I could do this one-handed. There we go. There we go. So you just move the clip like that, and it just pulls out very easily. And here is the other end, which is the female connector that connects to the factory harness right there. And that just plugged into the radio. All right, there we go. So we got the factory harness clipping into the female end, and the male, the provided harness going into the back of the radio right there. All right, so I removed 2 clips right there because I couldn't figure out which plug was going to be for this aux cable. So what I see here is that it should be a blue connector. Mine does not have a blue connector back there. So going by what I see in the image, it looked like it was right below the fan right in the middle there. So I unplugged that, but then that ended up not being the right connector. So I did the other one here, this gray one, and that appears to work. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug that in. All right, so that plugged in just fine. So there we go. Factory harness plugs into that female connector there. And then this one plugs into there. The next cable is the microphone cable, which was a little odd because the one that I just plugged in was labeled as mic. That is incorrect. That should be the aux. It should be this one. This is the microphone cable. So you can see I unplugged this guy, and that's going to go right in there. And this one also says mic. So this one's properly labeled. And there is the male connector there to go back into the radio. So just kind of going to the instructions, you can see that this is the piece right here. So ours shows the color green, our connectors are gray, so a little discrepancy there. But for the most part, you know, all of these different plugs go in a certain way and are a certain size. They're all completely different. So there's really no way to screw this up unless you're forcing a plug that's not supposed to go into that particular port. So this should just plug right in and be very smooth. So I found where that cable for the navigation display goes for the LVDS. So the diagram was a little confusing, but I found it. So I found another cable coming from that display right here. As you can see, that one looks a lot like this one that was provided. So that's where I'm going to connect that guy. All right, so just going back to that microphone plug that I did right there. Okay, so I found that the main harness also has a mic plug. All right, so what's the difference between this separate one that I have plugged in now to this one? I have no idea yet, but I think because this one is wrapped with the rest of this bundle right here from the main harness, I'm going to plug in this one and then see how that goes. All right, a little confused, but I think I found the aux cable here. So that guy should probably plug into that middle slot that I saw. So we're going to give that a try. Yeah, that's how it looks. Yeah, that looks like it'll fit. So that aux cable went to this bottom port here. So I unplugged that right here and then plugged it to the female end. Male from the harness provided goes in there. So for the most part, I got everything all plugged in with this device. All right, so everything should be plugged in. So if I were to try and start the car, this all should technically work. So I'm going to give it a quick test. I'm just going to tuck some of this stuff back in there for now, and just place it in there without screwing anything on. And then probably relocate this to the glove box and then see how it goes. But first, yeah, just want to make sure this all works. Oh yeah, one thing that I should mention. with this diagram, trying to get focused, you can see that my Acura MDX 2017, there are 5 dials. The 4th dial has to go in the low position. And so if you look right here, there's the high-low, and that 4th dial is in the low position. So everything here should work. It looks like there's a place for an SD card. That's pretty nice. All right. Let's give it a try. All right, guys. I got everything kind of loosely tucked in. Everything is plugged back in. And it's now time for a test. See how it works. So let's just go through the instructions one more time. Okay, so those are the controls. I guess that's how it looks. And okay, I guess there are no additional instructions on how to kind of turn that on. So we're just gonna have to wing it, I guess. Yeah. All right. Well, let's give it a try. Play around with it. Oh, there we go. Never mind. So please select aux mode before entering the system. Then enter the system operation. Press and hold for 2 seconds to enter the system page. So the home button. And then short press back to the home page of the system. Okay, so this is just going to be something I'm going to have to play around with and see how it works. Because that photo doesn't really look like mine, so we'll figure it out and see how it goes. So what you do is you click on source. So right now I'm already in aux, but this is what my default source inputs look like. I go down to the second page, I click on aux. See, my screen is still on the factory menu screen. So really, to toggle between this and the Navifans module, I push and hold the menu button for 2 seconds. So 1, 2. You hear it click, and you can see that it switched over. So that looked like it worked. So now I can use my dial to turn, and I can go to all of these different settings. Pretty cool, huh? So it was mostly a plug-and-play system. It's just with the mislabeled cables and other things, you just kind of had to play around with it to get it to work, but so far it looks good. So now I just need to test it out. So I got this USB plug from the module that I'm going to plug into my cable. Grab my cable. See if we can do this with one hand. Oh geez, it's going to be a little difficult. Let's give it a try. Okay, so I got that plugged in. I grab the other end of my cable, plug it in. Okay, now let's go. Oh, looks like it's connecting the CarPlay right away. Sorry about that. So my phone did switch over. It disconnected the video, but you can see it is now working. So if I were to go to, okay, so I am moving where everything kind of points using the dial here, and it looks like that's working. So if we were to, let me just find a song that is royalty free. Give me a moment. All right, so I found a song that's royalty free, so I'm just gonna turn the dial to play. I'm gonna push enter. Okay, so as soon as I hit play, it disconnected the video, but I was able to hear it loud and clear. It worked just fine and pretty cool. Got it all set up. So now I just gotta clean all this up and find a good place to mount this. And you can see, based off the length of the cable, can't really go far besides this glove box right here. So now I just have to go in, reroute some of these cables where it goes to the glove box, and then I'm ready to use it. All right, guys, so I got it taken apart, and what I did was I took my flashlight here, and I'm gonna place it right here, so that I can see the light kind of shine through from inside, so I know where to run the cable. So right now I took off the front cover from the cabin filter, so that's off. I'm gonna place this light right here, and then I'm gonna go inside here. You can see where that light is coming through. So basically what I need to do is fish all those wires through that hole. And I'm going to attempt that right now. So what I did was I used that coat hanger. I attached it to another cable, just a random cable that I found laying around. I'm really using the coat hanger so that I could fish it through where I wanted it to. And I took the other end of the coat hanger, and then I wrapped it up in the main harness that has all this kind of connected to it. What I'm really trying to do is slowly fish it through so it comes out here. And you can see, you can kind of see the gap is kind of small. So this is probably going to be the toughest part of the install, is just fishing these thick wires through. All right. I got it through. That was tough, but we did it. Just had to go slow, make sure that this was able to navigate around all those corners. And so getting it through that small hole was really tough, but I just had to pull. Fortunately, I taped up the harness and the coat hanger wire pretty good, that I was able to kind of pull it through. So that worked. So now I gotta try and fish in the LVDS cable. All right, guys, ran into another problem. While I was pulling the cable, I accidentally pulled too much and pulled in this aux cable that's supposed to be connected here. So now I gotta go back, fish this back up and through. And then what I'll do is I'll tape these two connections really tight so they don't come loose again. All right, it's fished through, and now I just gotta plug it to that. All right, that's nice and taped, and it should be a good solid connection there. Next up is this LVDS cable, this Y cable. We gotta fish this through, and I think that should be it. All right, so again, taping this up to the coat hanger wire, being very generous with the amount of tape you're using. So I started from the back here, taped all the way up, and then went back to about midway. That seems like it should be sturdy enough to pass through, so we'll give it a try. That went pretty smooth. It went right through. So now I'm just gonna unwrap this and figure out how I'm gonna mount that box. So I'm thinking it could just go up top here, and it looks like they provided a Velcro that you can just stick this onto. So I'm thinking put it up top here so that I can slide my owner's manual underneath. All right, I went ahead and pulled the cables back, plugged everything back in. I just got this cable that goes to the emergency light switch, and then this cable that goes to the climate control unit. Just got to plug those in, and then I should be able to bolt this back on. All right, so I got the screws on, and now I just need to go underneath behind that black trim right there, and then screw those 8mm bolts to tighten it from the bottom. All right, so I got the radius bolted back and screwed on, so now I'm putting the trim back on. And with the trim, you need to push it from the fans first, and then work your way down to the bottom to push in. So we'll push that, and then push the side there, and then the bottom, and there we go. It is done. Well, this part of it is. So now we just gotta figure out that mess and plug in the module. Alright guys, so I got a lot of different cables that are pretty thick that I need to fish through. Now I need to figure out how to put that cover back on once the cabin air filter is back in. So I think what I'll need to do is make a notch out of that cover, so then these wires would go nice and flush once that cover is closed. At this point, I realized my cabin filter was really dirty and needed a replacement. So I went ahead and purchased an OEM filter. When you're putting in the cabin air filter, make sure that the airflow is going the correct direction. And here is the part number for that particular cabin air filter if you need it. Alright, so I cut out a little notch here to put the wires kind of through from the top. So the idea is that cables will come through here, it will kind of sit on this, and then it will plug from this side or from the back. And so what I used was just a Dremel to cut the pieces. And this Dremel is just a cheap Dremel I got from Temu. It was like 10 bucks and it worked. Battery powered too. And then I use a sharp knife to score the bottom of it. And then what I did was I took some pliers. So I took pliers. So after I scored it, I grabbed it and then I bent it back and forth to break it off. And then I just took a file to file it down so it's nice and smooth. Let's get that focused. So hopefully that's big enough. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to cut a bigger notch. All right, so I got everything plugged in. So you can see those are where the cable's coming from. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this Tessa tape and then wrap it so all those cables are a single bundle that can eventually be passed through in this little notch that I created. All right, so you can see sort of where I wrapped the Tessa tape. So you can see it's all in one bundle, except for this one, of course, because it is the USB. So we need to keep that nice and free in case I need to plug it in. But I think what I'll likely do is just use the wireless feature for Apple CarPlay. So, but just having it in the glove box should be handy just in case. All right, and now let's try to fit in that cover. So I had to make the notch just a little bit bigger. So it's the notch itself, it's hard to see, sorry, I'm trying to get my flashlight right. So it's about, I would say, an inch wide and maybe 3/4 inch deep. So I was able to get it kind of nestled in there. You can see that this fabric or this cover thing is kind of making the hole a little bit tighter, but what's nice about that is it's keeping the cable in there nice and steady. So yes, overall I think this looks good. So now last step would be to place this guy up here like that with the double-sided Velcro. All right, so I got the Velcro tape on there. So I got it to the box first. I'm gonna peel this off. I'm gonna stick it right there. There we go, it's mounted. So you can see the cable in the back, nice and hidden. We just have to deal with this Wi-Fi antenna. And I think what I'll do is I'll just stick it on the bottom here and then wrap this so that it's nice and short. And then of course there's this USB cable for a wired connection. What I also added was this factory shelf. I didn't realize this until I was looking in the glove box, but this was mounted upside down. So I just pulled it out and then you can flip it. And there's a little place right here to push this rack in, or this shelf. And so now I got like a 2-shelf system, which is pretty cool. So now I could add stuff here or add stuff down here. And there we go, the finished product. So I went ahead and just wrapped this extra wire for the Wi-Fi with some Tessa tape. And so I mounted the antenna on the bottom. Hopefully that still kind of works since it's still in the glove box, but I'll just give it a try just to make sure. Also, again, with my model, the number 4 dial there needs to be on the low position, everything else on high. There's a slot for SD card, I believe. Yeah, that's kind of how it's mounted. And now I got some space to add stuff here, so that's pretty cool. All right, and then I guess I'm just gonna tuck in this USB cable on this shelf for now until I need to use it. But I'll go ahead and start the car and play around with it. All right, guys, let's see the final product. So we got source and aux. We push the menu button, hold it for 2 seconds. 1, 2. There we go, it switched over. So now we got all these options from that module. So I think what I'll do is I'll connect the Bluetooth, but actually before I do that, I might need to disconnect my Bluetooth from the main system, the factory radio, in order to connect to this, just to make sure there aren't any interferences. So let me try that. All right, so I deleted all the Bluetooth devices from the device list. So now I'm just gonna go back. So now I'll do the same thing. Push and hold menu. Switches over. Let's go to Bluetooth. Alright, so Bluetooth is not connected. Look for a device named Limset Box. Alright, let's grab my phone. Let's look through it right now. Alright, so as soon as I connected the Bluetooth, I was able to get CarPlay to display right away. So far, everything's looking good. I'm not able to play this royalty-free music for you because once I hit play, it disconnects the video recording. So, but just to let you guys know, it does work and it does sound awesome. Really, the biggest issue I have, well, not really an issue, is that you just have to deal with this dial to kind of go to your controls. Since you can't touch it with your finger, since it's not a touchscreen display. That's not super convenient, but I know that some OEMs, that's just how it's done. I'm fine with it. I don't think it's that bad. I've also heard from other YouTubers and other folks that the display on this navigation screen isn't super clear, kind of pixelated. I mean, to me, it looks just fine. I don't have no problems with it. It's nice and clear for me. You know, as long as it displays CarPlay for me, I'm perfectly happy with it. Just to add some other things about the whole installation, I think really some of the main issues I had, the biggest challenges was more just routing the cables. That was really tough, just mainly because there wasn't a whole lot of space, but you know, with patience you can get it done. For me, it took about, let's see, 5-ish hours, or maybe 6 hours just to get this all set up. So if you're not handy in any way, I'd probably recommend hiring someone to install it for you. But if you're really picky at how the install is, like me, do it yourself. Take the time, learn. You know, if this is your first time doing any type of car electronics, this is pretty easy as far as not having to deal with soldering, wired connections. Everything was basically plug and play. The instructions were a bit lacking, and some of the cables were mislabeled, but you know, that's just how it is. I think, again, what I mentioned was that each cable has its own specific connectors, so there really isn't a way to plug in a cable in the wrong spot unless you are forcing it in, and that's when you're trying to force it in, that's when you know that it's not going to work. So I would take it easy on that. One other thing that I wanted to show. So with the kit, it did come with everything. Here is instructions. Some of the cables I didn't need to use. So I had one cable that was connected, and that was this microphone cable with this right angle connector. I didn't need this. This must be for a different model or a different Acura. I think this kit also works for the TL, so maybe that's for the TL. I'm not sure. Another thing is a microphone. Since I already have a microphone built in this system, I didn't need to use it. So those are the two cables that I just left out. The other issue I had was taking out the two 8mm bolts on the bottom of the radio, or at least loosening them. That was hard. I think out of the whole install, it was that and then routing the cables, and that was really it. Yeah, again, if you take the time, be patient, you should be able to get it done in a day. So it took me almost 6 hours. Probably done it a lot less if I knew what I was doing, but going in completely blind, without a whole lot of background information other than looking up some videos of how to take off this front dash. That was about it. I kind of did everything myself. So yeah, if you prepare yourself, you should be able to get it done in a shorter time. But overall, I am happy with it, and I recommend the Navifans Apple CarPlay and Android Auto system. All right, thanks guys.